Hi, it's Tuesdays with Terica, and I'm Terica. I'm so glad you guys are here with me today. Hey, I don't know what's going on, but you got me again. We're going to be talking about adolescent grief and blending new families. Stay tuned, you're going to enjoy it. Hey, this is Terica, and welcome to Tuesdays with Terica. So, today we're going to be sharing a little bit more of my life. Thank you guys so much for just allowing me to do what I do. But I think that now is a time for me to be able to share some things because as we are moving forward, I told you guys I wanted to tap into some things that were a little more in depth, some things that were a little more personable and helpful to you, my viewers. So I want to just kind of just share with you a little bit of my life as a young person. Again, because today we're talking about adolescent grief and blending new families. I did go through all of that. But my mom, my birth mother, she actually passed away from breast cancer at the age of 44. And at the time, when she was first diagnosed, I was probably, I want to say six. I want to say that I was about 6 or 7. And she ended up passing when I was 8. But during the process, because way back when, a long time ago, breast cancer was a really sensitive thing, and the doctors did not know. Excuse me, the doctors didn't know how to the technology just wasn't the same. So that's basically what it was. They didn't know how to address her particular situation. And so I remember at a very young age, I was probably in kindergarten when my mom started teaching me different things. And in my older mind, I only can imagine that she thought or knew that she wasn't going to be there for me as I started to grow up. So, one of the things that she allowed me to do was she allowed me to walk to school by myself. Well, I thought I was walking to school by myself. So, I was in kindergarten. And so my elementary school, because again, I'm from Ohio, so bus services wasn't the thing that kids did at the time. You had somebody to walk you to school, or you did it on your own. And so there was a group of children in my community, but again, I was just so young that I didn't know them. I hadn't made friends with anybody that wasn't on my street. So because of my mom's work schedule, she walked me to school for my preschool years, but then in my kindergarten years, she asked me one day, well, hey, do you think you can do this by yourself? And I said, yeah, I can go to school by myself, but I don't know that I really knew that I could or I couldn't, but she let me, in my mind, walk to school by myself. So it was only a half a day. So I went at, I guess it must have been 12 o'clock, and then I was home by 3 or 4, something like that. So it was only a couple hours a day. And I remember one day going to school, and for whatever reason, I turned around and she had been following me. And that helped build up my courage to know that I could do it. That because even though I didn't know she was with me, even after she passed, I still felt like she was with me, still kind of watching over me. Um, so to kind of go from that to her teaching me or allowing me to iron my baby doll's clothes. Now, I know a lot of parents are saying, why at 5 years old were you able to use an iron? I can't imagine that it was on very high, but I remember her being impressed with me being able to iron my baby doll's clothes. Like I really did a good job. And so she said, okay, well, since you did such a good job, and this was over a period of time, it wasn't, immediately, but over a period of time, she said, well, do you want to start ironing your school clothes? And she started allowing me at the age of 5 to iron my school clothes. And I just thought, again, in my adult mind, how awesome was that for her to start building a foundation with me, even though she wasn't there with me throughout my elementary school days. But she built a foundation to help me learn independence. And I am forever grateful for that. So, again, my mom had breast cancer. I remember her sharing that with me. And, in a child's mind, you really don't understand what that really means. But I remember she went away for a long period of time, and then she came back. And then she went away again, and she never came home. And I went to visit her in the hospital, which I feel was like her last days. And she didn't recognize me. My sister, who was 16 at the time, took me to visit my mom. I think my dad was working. I can't remember, but my sister took me to the hospital. And because of the medication, she was really kind of out of her mind. And so she couldn't relate to me. She couldn't address me. That mother-daughter bond that I had, we didn't have that anymore because she was just in a different place. And so from a child's mind, that was a hard thing because I still needed my mom. I still needed my mommy. And though I had a great support system, my sister was there, other family was there. We were from a very close-knitted church family, so all of my friends' mothers were there for me. It's still nothing like having your own. I remember going to a couple of different church functions and my mom being either in the hospital or at home the first time in what I would consider a recovery stage. The other parents looked out for me, and that was very helpful. But again, it's nothing like having your own. So again, probably around the age of 8, I had just turned 8. She was in the hospital on my 8th birthday. My birthday is the day after Christmas. So I was 7. She was in the hospital. I had my birthday. I turned 8. She was in the hospital. She had already made provisions for me to have a Christmas because that's the kind of mom she was. Even though she wasn't physically able to do the things, she still made it happen. And so it was in January that she passed away. And so that last time that I went to the hospital, that she couldn't recognize me. I know I talked to her on the phone, but I never had the chance to interact with her. I never had the chance for her to hug me again, for her to tell me that she loved me. And I'm sure she said it over the phone. I'm almost sure she did because, again, that was the kind of mother that she was. But it wasn't the same. So I'm sharing this part because I want anyone that is a mother or anyone that is raising a young child, don't ever think that they're too young to really get what you're saying when you express your heart to them, because we don't know what tomorrow is going to be, and we want to make sure that they get it. And even if they don't understand to the full capacity in that moment, then when they become an adult, when they go through some things in life, when they have a mature mind, the hope and the prayer is that they go back to that place and remember those kind words that they shared with you, that you shared with them, and that you shared with them. So just kind of keep that in mind. So my mom, she passes away. And, my sister, again, she's very young. She's now stepping into a role of mom. And, she's loving me the best way she can. But, she's not my mother. And, she's still young. And she's trying to do some things herself because she's trying to figure out her own way as well. So my dad, I remember him. That we were always, in my lifetime, always a very faith believing family. And he continued to take me to church, and he continued to work and be that financial stability that we needed for our family. However, the conversation wasn't there. And it was almost like my mom was gone, but there wasn't conversation. Um, and that was hurtful. And I didn't realize how hurtful it was until there was another lady, until there was a new love of his life. And he did have a conversation with me. He asked me, what did I think? Because he had dated a couple people. And one of the ladies, her kids, I was the youngest. I was the youngest of her children, of the children. She had two children, and then me and my dad, because my sister and my brother were so much older, so they were kind of getting on with their life the best way that they could. And so I had to interact with who he may bring into the home. And so he had this one lady, and her kids were kind of mean. They were mean. Now, a lot of people say I was a bully growing up. I don't think so, but that's what they say. My cousins, who probably don't really count, but nevertheless. But these kids were different. They were from a different environment that I was brought up in. And so when my dad had the conversation with me, he asked me, what do you think? And I was like, yeah, no, I don't like them because they're mean to me. And so I don't know if that had any bearing on his choice, but we never saw her anymore. Okay. So, kids have a say in what's going on. And sometimes as a parent, you need to listen to what they say, because they may see things a little different than what you do. You're going through your own process of life. Sometimes you're wanting companionship, but sometimes a child can see things from a different perspective that may help you while you're making your choice. Just keep that in mind. So then he dated another lady, and this lady, she had two girls, and he said, well, what do you think about them? And I said, I like them, because one was my age. One was a little older, and then one was my age, and we got along really good. We played good. It was almost like an instant connection. Their mom was very nice, very sweet, very tender-hearted, and it was good. So when he asked me about them, I said, I like them, but I don't want her to treat me like Cinderella. Now remember, you gotta remember, this is from a mind of a child. So Cinderella and the wicked stepmother was the only thing that I could kind of correlate in my mind. That was it. So I didn't want to be treated like Cinderella. And he said, no, we're not gonna have that. We're not gonna have anybody treating you like Cinderella. So as time progressed, that lady became my new stepmother, and those two girls became my bonus sisters. And so at the time, it was a difference, because again, remember, I am still grieving, but I don't have the words to say what it is. I'm feeling some kind of way, but I'm happy because there is a female in the house. Well, actually, there's three females in the house now. I have somebody to play with. I have somebody to talk to and go to school with. And I have someone that, even though my sister was doing the best she could, she deserved to have a life, I don't know how I knew that at such a young age, but I did. I felt like I didn't want whatever it was that she was doing for me to be on hold for me. I wanted her to to go out and do whatever she needed to do, even at a young mind, because now I'm probably 9. So I wanted her to be the best that she could be, but she moved to South Carolina. Did y'all hear what I said? She moved from Ohio to South Carolina. I did not want her to come this far, but she did. It was the best move for her. But it made the grieving process, again, that I didn't have words to speak, it made it harder because now this is a second mother figure that has left me, and I'm not even sure why, because there's really nobody to talk to about it or to address it with. Now, again, mind you, I had some wonderful women in my life, some wonderful, wonderful women in my life. And I don't want to call names because I don't want anyone to be offended from my home church or from my family if I miss anyone. But there was a couple that really, my godmother and one of my best girlfriend's moms, that really kind of took me under their wing to kind of help me. But even in my trying to say what I felt, I really didn't have the words. I didn't have the vocabulary. I didn't have the knowledge to even know how to express myself. So that led me to a lot of disobedient things, because now I'm starting to act out. I don't have the words to say, but I have actions, because now I'm happy with my new life, but my old life has never been addressed. And so how do I, as a 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old, bring all this together and really give myself the opportunity to grieve as I am growing and as I am learning and as I am changing into a teenager now? So I don't have the words even today to say how it all exactly happened, but I know that I've always had a relationship with the Lord. Now, I'm not going to say that that's the only way. I'm just saying my way. This is just my personal testimony, and we're going to have somebody who has more answers than I do to kind of piggyback on this at a later time. We'll get to that in just a minute. But I know that God had to help me to maneuver through a lot of this, because again, I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know that I was angry. I didn't know that I was angry with God. I didn't know that I was angry with my dad for not knowing how to address some things. And this episode is not to allow anyone, my family, my mom, my dad, or any of my family members to feel any kind of way. It's my personal testimony on how we can help an adolescent through grief, through blending new families, through whatever their situation is. Conversation is the key. Conversation is the key because they don't always know what to say and how to say it. But because of my behavior, now I think because things are so different, someone would have said, well, has this been addressed? Have you guys talked about it? It wasn't until my early 20s that I even had a picture of my mother. And again, it's not to throw shade on anybody or to make my dad or my family look like they didn't know what they were doing as far as helping guide me through the process. This is basically just information that certain things need to be put in place because there is a need. There is a need for anyone that is going through grief to be able to speak the words, to be able to say and to share how they're feeling and the anger and the thoughts that they may have. That it just needs to be put out in the atmosphere. It needs to be put out in the atmosphere so that it doesn't have the power that it could have long term in festering inside. So I began to, work on my relationship with the Lord. Some things were able to be resolved through prayer. But I really feel like the key to it all was when I actually was introduced to a former pastor of mine, and I was able to just talk it out. She never said to me, well, how was your childhood? Because she wasn't a part of my childhood. So when I moved to South Carolina, I had a pastor, my first pastor here, and she never asked me specific questions about, let's go to counseling, let's talk about this, let's talk about that. She basically was just trying to get to know me. And she asked me about my childhood. And in conversation, I was able to share. And I remember waking up one morning and feeling like, whew, seemed like that person I've been carrying around, like they're not on my back anymore. It was almost like I was having therapy without having therapy, just because I was able to release the words. And it seemed like I had carried a person, like a body, around on my shoulders for so many years. And all of a sudden, I was free. And that's the point that I'm trying to say in our conversation today. People need to give their feelings and their emotion words. They need to be able to not have to worry about whether it's said in the right or the correct way. They just need to be able to get it out, because you don't want anything festering in your heart or in your spirit, because then it becomes a little thing that grows into this huge thing. And again, I felt like I was actually carrying a corpse for many, many years, and yet I had no clue as to what or why. Um, I am grateful to those that have actually been a part of my life, because they have allowed me to just be me, good, bad, or indifferent. But I appreciate them also, because now that I have words and now that I know how to use my words, I can express myself. I can share without being judged or without being felt that I'm having to be criticized for having an emotion. It's my truth. It's my truth. It may not be your truth. You may see things a little different, but it's my truth. And everybody has a right to express their truth. My mom, my stepmother, my bonus mom, again, as I was saying, a wonderful heart, a beautiful heart. She loved me, and yet I spent many years in the same house, eating at the same table, going to the same church, driving in the same car, not really knowing whether she did or she didn't. And it didn't dawn on me that I always wondered, well, gosh, I see, how she's interacting with her girls, my bonus sisters. I love them to death. They know that I do. Never had an issue. We always talk. We always share. We always come together. We are family. There is no separating us. There is no wedging in between us. It's not going to happen. They all have children, but you're not going to come between us, because we are family. We are sisters. We were here before the kids came, and we're going to be here when the kids go off and do their own thing. So let's just get that straight. but but I would see the different in the interaction, and I would always wonder, well, gosh, am I loved like that? Am I really embraced like that? But it didn't dawn on me until in my adult mind, when I was able to see and witness and experience some things different, that my dad always had a limitation. Because remember, when he first asked me, how did I feel about everything? I didn't want to feel like Cinderella. And so he always made it to where there was, it was a difference. It was a difference in how I was able to be treated, because, and I believe in his mind, he always wanted me to know, but you are from my seed, my loin. And I understand that and I get that. But what that makes for a woman is that then you can't love with your full heart. And I never, by me not having children, I wasn't sure if I would want to adopt, or if I would want to, be a foster mom or a foster parent or whatnot, because I wasn't sure, because of my experience, if I could love with my full heart. And how would I feel if I was able to, and then this child that I've poured my heart into couldn't receive me. And so I held back. I held back. I wouldn't move forward in that because I wasn't sure. But the reality is, when you are bringing families together, when you have your children and he has his children, or however it works, you have to be able to love whoever you choose, to love your kids the way you love them. There shouldn't be any division or separation, or for one to feel different or slighted in any way, because you're making a choice. So if you're making a choice, then you have to choose to understand that that person that you have chosen must love your child the way that you do. And if they can't, then maybe you need to rethink your choice. Just saying. Just saying. I went through the process. We are a happy family. Again, my birth mom, my birth father, they're both deceased now. But they put so many nuggets of wisdom and love into me and my siblings. My bonus mom, she is still here. I still talk to her. We call each other. Well, I call her because she's not able to call at this stage of life. But she still called. We still talk. I still call. I still love on her. My bonus sisters, I love them. I love their children. You couldn't see us in any place and not know that we weren't family, that we didn't share the same bloodline. Our families are intertwined. Our cousins are intertwined. We are one happy family. And I want to just share this with you guys today, just because I want it to be food for thought. If you are in a relationship, if your children have lost a parent or a loved one and they haven't had the platform that they've needed to be able to the grieving process, to go through the grieving process, give them that time. And if you are choosing to love again, make sure your choice loves your children the way that you do. Hey, we are going to be interviewing with Miss Tiffany James of Benet's Creative Counseling in the next couple of weeks. She's going to help us with some tips on how to do what I've just said, how to help bridge families together, how to help navigate with an adolescent child. And that will piggyback on what we've talked about today. So as always, I hope you've been encouraged and inspired. I hope you like, share, and subscribe. Give us some feedback. I want you guys to know things are going to get a little deep, but it's only for the betterment of each of us. Have a great week. Enjoy your time.